So I want to make a video about the things that annoy me about art teachers, and this is something that really has I couldn't always identify it, but I think I've landed on something. So it's giving students rules and then not explaining the reason for that rule. So these would be hard set rules that draw like a hard line between what you should and shouldn't do. For example, don't draw anime, right? Don't draw anime, but they leave it at that. They don't tell you why you shouldn't draw anime. They don't tell you that drawing anime does have benefits and it can be a part of a healthy diet, a healthy art diet, but it shouldn't be the only thing you do. You shouldn't just copy anime and you shouldn't just rely on formulas. But they don't actually explain why, right? Another cliche would be don't trace. Another one would be don't trace, don't copy, right? Don't copy. Something I hear all the time. I used to hear all the time is you're not drawing a coloring book. You're not making a coloring book. So you go into figure drawing and you draw a figure drawing with a really hard closed outline, and they say you're not doing a coloring book. You're not making a coloring book, but they don't explain why they're saying that, what they mean by a coloring book. And they might mean that you have a hard line around the entire form, and that would be, that's the reason you shouldn't do that, is if you're trying to give the impression of depth and realism, then that hard outline is going to kill any sense of depth and it's going to flatten the image. But they don't explain that. They just use this thing of it's don't treat it like a coloring book, and it's just that doesn't help the student, because the student's just like I don't know, because maybe the student wants to go into animation and maybe they want to be someone, they want to draw like Steven Silver, and Steven Silver uses hard outlines all the time. In fact, in animation you should use a hard outline. So to tell a student not to use a hard outline when their goal is animation doesn't make any sense, unless they are specifically trying to do realism or create a sense of depth. Then you shouldn't tell them not to do a coloring book. So just these I really want to be a teacher, and I really want to be a teacher who doesn't make the same mistakes and the same frustrating do the same frustrating things that my teachers said and did, which is just like these rules that they say but they don't explain. And whether it's because they don't have the understanding or they're not seeing it from the perspective of the student, I don't know. But it was just something really frustrated me growing up, is just these rules that aren't explained. And why can't I do it this way? Why is it bad to draw anime? Why can't I trace? And maybe there is a reason you shouldn't, or maybe it's a skill that can be deployed with nuance, right? Maybe there are times when tracing is the appropriate solution to a problem, but it won't help you develop certain skills, right? So in skill development, tracing is not going to be your best bet in a lot of ways, because you won't develop the skill of proportions. But if you just want to trace in order to build your confidence, great, it's a great tool for that. If you want to use tracing to just look very closely at someone like Hayao Miyazaki, right? And you just want to trace over his lines and feel like what it's like to be in that image and build your love of the craft. Great use of tracing. Tracing can be a really good tool for building that love of the craft. It can also be a tool for saving time when you're doing portraits, is just to trace the proportions, because yes, you could do it if you're already a professional. Of course you can do it. It's just going to take time. And if you've got commissions and you've got clients and you've got deadlines, then you're not going to want to waste time on just figuring out the proportions. You could do it, but tracing is going to save time. So the idea of not tracing is so silly, because it's a tool. It's a tool. And to say just don't trace is just it lacks understanding. It doesn't help students, because you're killing their creativity. You're taking something they love to do, which is tracing. And tracing is how a lot of us got started. And you're taking tracing and you're saying, you can't do this anymore. And what you're doing is you're crushing their passion. You're crushing their joy. And you're destroying their curiosity. And by just saying, don't do it, you can only do it this way. You can only do it if you're drawing from, freehand, or, from observation. It's just like, it's so dumb. It's just, the student will naturally evolve out of tracing if you just explain to them the uses of tracing. they will still be able to trace. They'll have the freedom to trace, but they won't develop that reliance on tracing if they understand why it might hamper their progress as an artist. Or they don't want to be a professional, they just want to trace for fun, and that's fine. As long as they're not plagiarizing and claiming it as their own work and copying work, then what's the problem with tracing? If they're just doing it for themselves, tracing's great. It's a fun activity that gives people a sense of just accomplishment and pride, and builds their confidence. So these hard rules just that aren't explained, that's something that always annoyed me about teachers. So that's my little rant for Sunday. I just felt the need to make that video just as I develop my what I want to be as a teacher and what I want to give to students. As I continue down that road, just kind of thinking about what I could improve upon, and what I could do better that I feel like I didn't get as a student. So anyway, that's my rant for the day. Love to you all. Goodbye and take care.